Hello, ladies and gentlemen, EventIcons viewers. You may have noticed the scenery has changed. We aren't in our homes. I feel like I'm just repeating the same intro I used at IMEX, but we are live, like completely live, not just like remotely broadcasting. We are doing this on location with our guests. Like we can touch them. They're like real people. I know, it's amazing. Amazing. They're not robots. We are live from ILEA Live, everyone, 2018 in Denver, Colorado. And today we are going to be talking about a little behind the scenes action of what's like producing such a big conference here. What is ILEA? Pretty much everything related to ILEA that you never thought you knew. So why don't we jump right on in and we will welcome our amazing esteemed icons. All right.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions, or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
All right, so joining us first, I'm gonna totally mess this up 100%.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. Dana McCauley in the house.
Got it. Nice job.
Dana is amazing. Board of Governors of ILEA, which
That's
means
correct.
that she's like really high up there. We'll talk a little bit about what that means a little bit later in the show.
Okay.
But she is a badass from Napa, Sonoma, and we'll be talking a little bit about her history. You said 2006 was when you joined ILEA?
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So almost 12 years of history. We'll definitely have to dive into it a little bit more. So thank you so much for joining us, Dana.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Joining me also is Tara Greenwood. Tara actually used to be my regional vice president when I was president of the ILEA chapter in Arizona, and from Denver, Colorado. But now you are the chairperson of this entire conference.
Something like that.
Something like that. So in charge of everything. So when it comes to all the decisions, you got made all the decisions when it comes to this.
Wow. I was involved in the decision making. Yes.
I love it. I love it.
She had a little help from her friends. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And we'll talk definitely about like the support that you got and what it kind of went into, because that's one thing I'm really curious about is when you produce a conference like ILEA Live in your hometown, you're bringing this massive conference in. Like, what does that all look like? And we'll talk in that a lot different. But you are awesome badass as well. So I'm surrounded by complete badasses. So I told you, this is like really casual. They didn't believe me that this was really casual. We just did the last episode was shit event planners say. So that and Aaron Kaufman. So we really go there. So this is going to be a fun one. All right. And then I'm also joined by Jen Poyer. Jen, who I learned has been doing this since she was a student member and then rose through the, what I call like the ILEA ranks.
That
right?
works. Yes.
Yes. And now you are on international committees and a general ILEA badass that everyone knows.
Something like that. And then on Friday at the AGM, I'll be joining Board of Governors.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So,
That's right. And then joining the esteemed level of Board of
That'll
Governors,
be a lot of fun.
which I definitely think people are going to be curious about, like, what is Board of Governors and what does that all mean? So, all right. So we've gotten introductions out of the way. So let's dive into some content. And what everyone kind of has to look forward to is hearing a little bit about you guys and what your stories are. And, you know, having 12 years, a million years in ILEA, pretty much doing this since you were born. People want to hear their stories of what got you kind of into the events industry and what got you involved with ILEA today. So why don't we start off with you, Jen, so you can start with the story of how you started as a student member.
Sure, absolutely. So my background was actually in theater and art when I was going to school. And I was kind of at that point in my studies where I decided this isn't what I wanted to do for a living anymore. And I think there was a very clear moment where we were working on a show and I had to step outside the theater for, break or whatever. And somebody was setting up a big gala event on campus. And I went, oh, that's really super cool. How do I find out more about this and how do I get more involved in that? And I think at that point in, I don't know, just where we were in education, there weren't that many hospitality programs or anything out there. There wasn't a formal education point except for maybe a handful of schools across the country that offered something. So after I graduated, I ended up enrolling in a certificate program at a local university. And the head professor of that program had said there's basically kind of two main organizations out there if you're interested in getting into this. If you're wanting to get into events, ILEA is the organization you want to join. And so I joined as a student member. I was a student member for our 2-year maximum. The first year, I didn't do anything really, and then guilt.
I think it's like everybody like starts off joining an organization.
It's
like, yeah,
okay, well, I paid my dues. What do I do now? And the guilt side of things just got to me. I'm like, I'm going to be blacklisted from this group. I'm supposed to do my 10 service hours. Like, what am I going to do? So I called up the local chapter and said, hi, I'm a student member. I'm supposed to give you 10 service hours a year. I can't get to your meetings. I'm working. I don't have job support behind this. What can I do that's easily for me to do at home? And they said, well, our website has been out of date for like 5 years. Can you start going through it and piece by piece, like looking through stuff and then taking over our newsletter and all that? So I grew through that in the marketing communications side of things and eventually moved up to chapter president. I was on our chapter board for 9 years, and then I moved on to the international committee side of things. So I've been a past chair of international chair of certification, which oversees the CSCP designation, worked on our international Marcom committees and education council. And so this year I'm excited to be joining the board of governors. And then I also still get to work on one of Dana's committees on our super exciting finance and audit committee. And so exciting. And as a board liaison to our education council, which oversees ILEA live content and the overall kind of education content of ILEA.
Awesome. Wow. I think you cannot meet anyone who is so like bleeds purple, as they say, right? Like that's the saying with ILEA, because obviously everything's purple, and EventIcons is purple too. So it worked out really well. But I think you can't meet anyone who bleeds as much purple as you, Jen. So, all right, Tara, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your history, and I know you have a little bit of a different twist on things as well, and talk about what got you to where you are planning ILEA Live in Denver.
Sure. So, small town girl from Alabama. I was living in Cleveland, Tennessee, and interviewed with a hotel for the general manager position. And the owner of the hotel felt that my personality would be perfect for a director of catering. And I was like, I am the pickiest eater. No way am I selling catering. You do not even want me on the side of trying to convince people to eat when I don't like half the food on your menu. So many interviews later, I was desperate for a job. So I was like, fine, I'll take the job. Well, 15 years later, still in the catering industry, but I ended up moving to Denver about 2 years after I got that job. And Denver was big city for me, small town girl, remember? So I started working for a company in Boulder, and immediately I was living in Denver, working in Boulder. And so they found this an opportunity for me to get involved with ILEA, because they were not very involved because Boulder is so far out of the city. So got involved with ILEA, immediately joined a committee because the one person that I had that I was white on rice to was on the board. So he immediately got me involved in a committee.
You get voluntold.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Then I met Ingrid Nagy, which we all know Ingrid, who worked for a catering company, or she owns a catering company here in Denver. Ended up working for her. And as soon as I started working for her, it was basically a requirement to join the board. So I immediately joined the board and went on to be chapter president. Straight from there, thanks to this lovely lady right here, who is my mentor, became regional vice president. And from there, here I am as international chair.
Wow. Awesome. What a journey. Amazing. I love it. And we'll definitely, I think everyone's going to be confused by some of these terms, board of governors, regional VP. We'll definitely define them a little bit so they can kind of see like, what does this organization look like? And I think that's something huge to stress on, is an international organization. Obviously it's in the beginning of the title, but I think that's really, really huge to talk about all the amazing volunteers that put their time in every single day to make this all happen. So Dana, what about you? What is your story and what got you to being board of governors?
So my story started with food a little bit too. So I grew up on the East Coast, traveled cross country, landed in California, decided I loved it, and thought, what am I going to do with my college degree? Where am I going? And I thought, well, I'll just get a job in a restaurant temporarily, like I did in college, while I figure out where I want to land. 12 years later, I was restaurant manager and wine buyer. Every night at a restaurant is a live event, so I guess I was always in the live events industry. But we also did a lot of weddings, and we had lodging there too, so people would come and stay. So towards the end of that, I thought, you know, I really want to segue. I love wine. I want to get into the wine business. And I landed a job at a winery, and they tasked me to design and launch their events program. They were doing a build out above the tasting room. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I thought, well, who do we admire? Who do we want to be like? And so I called those other wineries that had these events programs, and I said, can I come over and talk to you? And so I went with 4 pages of questions. And at one of those stops, somebody said, oh, have you heard of ILEA? There's a chapter starting here. So I went to an informational meeting about what was to become ILEA Napa Sonoma, joined at the very first launch event as they were counting off on the wall as people were joining. And we got into the 50s at that event, and it was super exciting. And so I was a member for about a year. And I think the way that most of us get involved is someone asked, and someone said, hey, would you consider being on the board? Well, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Sure, no problem. Get to know some more people, and it evolved into becoming a VP of communications. And then our chapter was very new, being president. We each took a couple of years as president. And as a president, whatever your position is, there are calls with other chapters. There are 48 ILEA chapters around the globe. And so all of the presidents get on a call together, and it's led by the regional vice president of that area. And while I was on those calls, I thought, oh my God, these guys are doing such cool things. I want to go see it. And so how do I get to do that? And I thought, well, the RVP, that's one of those terms, the regional vice president has to go visit every chapter in the region. I'm like, that's the funnest job ever.
Get to travel for fun? What?
Right?
Awesome.
And go, well, there's other things that you do too, but you're basically the liaison between the chapter level and the international level. So providing communication up and down from everybody at the chapters, the chapter leaders, to their members. So it's really floating that information up and down. And after regional vice president, because I'm crazy, then I threw my hat in the ring for the International Board of Governors. So every chapter has a board, and then ILEA International has a board. And so it's been really fun to fly at a different altitude on the Board of Governors. Yeah, so really cool.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Wow. So for everyone who's probably like, oh my gosh, there's so much we want to know about ILEA, and we, I maybe have never heard of it. I don't want to dive too deep into it. I just looked it up. Episode 51 of EventIcons, we had Judy Brillhart and Jody Collin on the episode, and we actually interviewed them talking about what ILEA is and kind of what their experience. So I want to stick more high level stuff, because you guys are like big badass things, and there's obviously, we're here at ILEA Live, so there's lots to talk about with ILEA Live as well in the conference and what it's all about. So if you are interested in ILEA, don't know what it is, go check out episode 51, and then come back to this episode where it's kind of like 201, ILEA 201. That was like ILEA 101, 201. Okay, so all right, so I want to jump into the first question, which is talking a little bit about what is ILEA Live, since that's obviously where we are right now, and kind of, I guess let's start. I'll leave it really basic. What is ILEA Live, and what are you guys doing while you're here? So I'm going to let Tara's kick it off, since she's the boss in charge of the whole conference.
Well, ILEA Live is a conference that the association puts together to bring all of the event professionals into one setting to further educate you on what's happening globally. And, I think what sets us apart is we don't necessarily focus on the 101, as you say. We're bringing in professionals, and I think that the level of our attendees are expecting much more in-depth training. And so I think with this being a little bit smaller than some of the other conferences out there, it allows people that one-on-one experience with the speakers, and you get more of a roundtable experience than feeling like you're in a conference with thousands of people. the intimidation of being able to ask the questions that you want. So I feel like the speakers that we have coming on board just have this wealth of knowledge that they have to bring, and the people that are here attending have that experience where they can have that one-on-one. They can see that speaker in the hallway. They're in a smaller setting where they can have that one-on-one conversation with the speaker. So I think we've got a lot in store for everyone this week.
I was actually talking to Tahir Endine, who's actually one of our co-hosts that everyone knows who watches the show. And Tahir is actually doing a session tomorrow on, I think, like, Tahir's going to kill me because I don't know the exact title of her session, but it's like superhero creatives who crush the box, essentially, like thinking outside the box and how do you think creatively. And I was talking to her and I said, like, hey, so tell me a little bit about like what your audience is going to be like. She said it's actually going to be really small. And most people think like, oh, like that means bad. And she's like, no, it's better because mine's workshop style. So I'm getting in there, it gives me more one time with everybody. And I think that is what's really, really cool, because I think we're all sick of sitting in like 100, 200 person breakout rooms, 1,000 person general sessions and just being talked to, right? So Dana, what about you? What's like your experience with ILEA Live and kind of favorite things about it?
For me, it's about the relationships that you make over the years by coming. Thinking of ILEA as a global organization and their chapters all over. It's our one time of year to come together in person and really share ideas for chapter leaders, for members, because a lot of our members' experience is at the local level. So this is where they see the global part of the creative events industry and make those connections that really inspire us to go on through the coming year in our day jobs, in our ILEA jobs. So for me, it's about the things that we learn in the sessions. It's also about those moments in the hallway outside the sessions, or true confessions when you're staying up just a little bit too late at night, but those conversations you have at 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, sitting around in the lobby, you know, and really sharing ideas and aha moments.
Well, I think it's one of the best things ever. I think we were talking about having social experiences at conferences too. I mean, that's where you make your best friends. Also, you end up making great clients. I mean, literally, I was just sitting in, we have our chapter leadership thing, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but I was sitting there and someone comes up and says, oh, you're based in Arizona. I need help with X, Y, Z. And it's something that would never have happened on the internet, or, you know, had that person, they probably would have just called up and just showed up in Phoenix and never known we were there to help them. But being here, create a business opportunity. And sometimes they're over late night drinks for sure. So Jen, what about you? What's your kind of favorite things about ILEA Live?
A couple of things on what Dana was talking about. When I was in high school, way back long ago, I had a professor that once said, or a teacher that once said, you know, everybody that you meet knows something that you don't, and learn it from them. And I think ILEA Live really has that huge opportunity from there. You have so many resources. I mean, not just for chapter operations and the ILEA kind of operating side of things, but just like nuggets of information that you can take home and apply to your personal life, apply to your professional life, or have something that, you know, you're working through, you're stuck on something, and you have amazing resources from around the globe here that have probably gone through a similar problem that you're going through right now. I mean, I've got a bunch of events that I'm planning in the fall at buildings that don't exist yet. So I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and they're like, oh yes, I've been through this too. Here's some of my pinch points that I had to watch out for. I'm like, writing this stuff down because it's stuff that, you know, I probably, you know, somewhere deep back in the back of your head, you know about, but it was just nice to have that reconnection, or when I get in a sticky situation a couple of months from now, that I can call them and be like, hey, I'm facing this now. How did you deal with this situation? And I think building those relationships and just that global knowledge bank of people is really a huge asset of this conference.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So we talked a little bit about getting members to kind of experience the global level of an association. I think this is very common because I think a lot of our viewers are part of some sort of organization, maybe already at this point, and they might be at the local level, but maybe they haven't kind of made that jump to that global level. Can you talk a little bit about how ILEA Live educates its leaders and gives them that exposure moving forward? So I kind of hinted at the chapter leadership portion that we were doing earlier today. It's today's Wednesday, right? Wednesday, yeah. Oh my gosh, it's EventIcons. It's Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, and such a blur. Feel like I've been here forever. Wednesday, but the conference technically starts tomorrow, but there's a lot happening. There's a lot of people bustling around here. You're running into people that we've had on our show, Nick Borelli, Kevin White, Aaron Coffin. They're all running around the halls. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on today and what it is and why it exists and all that stuff. So Dana seems like she's ready to knock this one
Waving
out.
the people
All
off
right.
screen. Sorry.
It's hard to do the live thing because there's like, hey, so many amazing people.
Yeah, I know. I'm like getting distracted because one of the people that was on the board of governors when I was the new kid on the block just walked up to the registration desk, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And that reminds me of a little story when I got a new job, and I was like, how am I going to explain ILEA to my boss? I'll get back to your question. And we were doing an event. I work for Sonoma County Vintners. We represent the wineries of Sonoma County, and they already had an event partially planned, Sonoma and the city in Dallas. And I'm like, how am I going to explain ILEA and being involved in this organization and, you know, dues and whatever to my boss? We walk in and there's Terry Shields to greet me and say hello. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now I can explain this because my new boss, I know the person we're walking in that's running the place where we're hosting the event, you know. Anyway, but what we're doing here at Leadership is inviting all of our new leaders, our seasoned leaders in. I think the leadership meetings are so much about providing opportunities for the leaders doing different roles, coming into new roles to connect with others in those roles and people who have been in those roles before so that they have valuable tools and skills to move forward in their coming leadership year. So this kicks off the year really for us because we're on a fiscal calendar.
Yeah, July to July, right?
Yeah.
Can I type on top of
Yeah,
that? I mean,
please.
I think too, at least for me, the leadership sessions that have been attached to ILEA, I mean, they really often provide an opportunity for some maybe additional leadership training that you're not necessarily getting in your workplace, that even though it might be specifically for your chapter operations, it's all stuff that's so applicable to your professional career. And I mean, heck, being on chapter boards and, you know, learning about budgeting and reading P&Ls is like, that's important stuff that you use every day. And maybe you're not getting that in your day-to-day job, but there's a lot of those tools that you're provided here, which are
Absolutely.
wonderful to have.
It's personal and professional development. It really is. I mean, so many levels.
And what's cool about it too is, so obviously, yeah, like you, for example, I can talk to the LA chapter or the Napa Sonoma chapter, which there are technically regional like conferences for us to talk about chapter operations, but this is the time you get to reach across even the pond, Canada, Mexico, all over the place, literally the global international organization, which I think is really, really cool. And I think one of the coolest things about it too is I'm outgoing president now after 2 years of serving as president. Woo!
There's some international committees just calling
God.
your name.
Application starts soon.
And thank you guys.
You've been voluntold.
I know, voluntold right there at that point. And my incoming president, she goes, I'm learning so much. I have this idea, and it's, you know, as a business owner, I know how to read P&Ls, balance sheets, all that sort of stuff, but like this is hugely like, you know, opportunity for them. But even though they can also learn, like they can hear things like what happens when you have that board member that you need to like get off the board, like someone's a bad apple, what do? And sometimes inside the board, someone's not gonna be able to help you. Maybe your past president can help you, but this is a chance where you get really great feedback, I think, that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this morning we had a session on how to run an effective board meeting and really sharing and collaborating, you know, on those kind of ideas. You know, the session was led by someone, but it really allowed people to give input about their experiences and how to improve.
And I think, I mean, it's easy to say, well, I don't run board meetings in my everyday job, but I bet you have a team meeting that you're running. So like take those best practices from that and how to run an effective meeting and bring that back to your office, because that helps things in so many different ways.
So much more. And then one thing I want to kind of talk about, which I think is really, really cool, is this idea of the regional vice presidents too. So ILEA has been the main organization that I've been a part of, so I don't know a ton about the other organizations out there, but this idea that, as you know, when you come in to be president, Tara was my regional vice president at the time, and she remembers what it was like for me. And I was like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I'm going to figure all this out on my own. I don't know what to do. But Tara was really there for me to be able to help with that. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between the RVPs, the regional vice presidents, and the chapters, and how it helps them, you know, stay organized, stay doing the right things, and making sure that the chapters continue to succeed?
Sure. So one of the roles as RVP, as Dana alluded to, is you're the liaison between the chapter and the Board of Governors. So I had a liaison. So Dana was my liaison. So she was kind of help coaching me. But on a chapter level, what I found most beneficial in what I could provide the chapters is you come on board as the chapter president, and I vividly remember they give you this 5,000 page SOP
I think it was like
document.
7,000 extra pages.
Close, yes. Document, and they're like, read this. This has every answer that you're looking for. Well, nobody reads it. And it really does have every answer to every question you're ever going to be faced with. So I think one of the things, and Dana helped me prepare myself, was there are going to be questions and they are going to be in the SOP. So you need to know that. And so that was the one thing that helped me throughout the year, because inevitably every time a question would come, I could reference it back in that SOP. So while they didn't have necessarily the time to research that, they could come to me and I could be kind of the table of contents where it's like, okay, I got your answer. I'm going to tell you what it is and I'm going to talk you through it, but here's also a resource. So I would extract it from that SOP and give them like a 2-page document versus a 7,000 page document, but also kind of a sounding board. It's tough being president. It's tough being on the board. You have conflicts, you have decisions. And so just having someone outside of that 13 board meeting just to kind of bounce ideas off of and make sure that the decision that you're making and the road that you're headed down with these leaders and also the chapter members, that you have someone that you can go to, that you can bounce ideas off of and bitch if you need to.
I love it. Sometimes, yeah, you just need that sounding board like you're talking about. Dan, can you talk a little bit about like how the RVPs are working throughout the leadership portion of the conference as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this leadership, in conjunction with the conference, the regional vice presidents actually do a lot of the planning for this and the leadership summits that we hold throughout the year.
Define planning. Like, is it like picking the venue or like?
No, what will the content of the sessions be? What are the hot topics right now? What changes are coming down the pikes that leaders need to be aware of? It's really about sharing information and what's the type of information that we need to share right now. And taking a look at when we share that information. So especially right now, as boards are just starting their year, it's a certain kind of information that they need to do a good job and to really serve the members as a whole. And then partway through the year, just like you might have a retreat and a mid-year retreat to kind of do a checkpoint, the leadership summits that we also hold in person at another point in the year is really to help onboard and do the transition between the past president and the incoming president and the folks in those roles. So the RVPs play a really critical role. They actually, of all of the positions, are one of the only ones that's a 2-year term, because it really takes you a little while to get to know all of the chapters in the Wild Wild West, for example, and go out and meet everybody in those places. And by the second year, you really have an idea of what's happening. I see other regional vice presidents walking past right now. Sorry, we get distracted.
I love it.
Squirrel moments with
But
Barb
yeah,
This
Harris.
is live. I mean,
It's
we're not
live
sitting
at
here
ILEA
in a,
Live.
we're not sitting here in a conference
Yeah,
room.
so the RVPs do a lot of the crucial planning on the education for the chapter leaders,
That's
which
cool.
then touches the members.
So one thing I kind of want to talk about is obviously everyone kind of may be involved again in an organization right now. What would be your recommendations for those who are looking to break beyond their local chapters and kind of like step up next level? Regional vice president, board of governors, whatever it may be, plan the whole conference. You know, what are your guys' recommendations? Jen, if you want to kind of kick it off with any tips that you kind of have for someone who's looking to launch into that international level?
I would say, I mean, getting involved in international committees completely changed my engagement with ILEA and just my
Can you
professional
define
career.
like what the committees
Yeah.
are?
So, oh gosh, there's a variety of them. So we have an education council that oversees kind of the overall educational vision for ILEA. We have our CSCP certification council, or certification committee, which really directs the content and development of the CSCP designation and that exam. There's the conference committee, there's finance and audit committee, there's Marcom membership,
Something for everyone.
nominating
Oh my
committee. There is a flavor for everybody at this ice cream bar. So
And what do the commitments look like if someone wants to get involved in one?
it's different depending on usually there's since the members of those committees are scattered around the globe, so quite often you're meeting by conference call or Google Hangout or something a couple times, sometimes once a month, sometimes a couple times a month, depending on what the project is. And the thing I like about it the most is that you are meeting people outside of your area. I work very regionally in my job, but people call me because they know I'm involved with ILEA and ask for like, hey, do you know somebody in Germany or Dubai or the UK? I'm bringing an event there, I'm bringing business there, and I need somebody on the ground that I know I can talk to and trust and get the inside scoop. And I'm able to do that because of a lot of the connections I made just through ILEA, but I think those were really heightened when I went to that international committee level, especially when I was certification chair. I was working with groups in Dubai, in Ireland, in the UK, and someplace else that I'm not remembering right now, but meeting with them regularly by phone and just talking through the whole process on what being a CSCP was and the process to get their designation. And I've built great groups of people around the world now because of that. And so it's been very interesting on that level. And I think kind of getting out of that local comfort zone is really educational. The way that people think differently about producing events and just business and operations around the globe is fascinating to me. And I think you learn so much from that, and being exposed to that really provides a lot when you're serving in those roles.
Wow. Mind blown for sure. Just, like I think I can definitely agree with that. The more you get involved, and I think that's I think we talked about that in the first ILEA episode, was like the more you get involved, if people think like, why should I get involved with the board? You get so much value at being on the board. I think it just scales, it feels like, as you move up the organization, start to give back more, right? Tara, what was it like going from being involved at a smaller level to being an RVP? Like what was that very difficult, or did you find that, hey, it was about the same amount of time commitment? Well, you're kind of like, I'm going to answer that question for us.
Are you considering RVP?
Oh,
okay,
You heard it here first.
okay.
Oh my gosh, I gotta go, guys.
Why do you ask?
It was definitely a big time commitment. I think being chapter president was a time commitment, and then you go into the immediate past president where you sit there and you do nothing, and then going into RVP, it was overwhelming, obviously, because I had big shoes to fill from the prior Western RVPs. The time commitment, there's definitely a time commitment involved. I am so fortunate, though, to work for an amazing company. I think that was key for me. They were 100% supportive. The travel, obviously, you have a travel commitment, but they were very supportive. I was very fortunate that most of the chapters that I would visit, we would have a property with my company, so I could kind of piggyback a work trip along with a regional, the ILEA trip. But it taught me so much. So the time commitment to me was nothing in comparison to the knowledge that I gained from all of the other leaders. So I felt like I knew Denver, and I had my grip in a grip on what was happening in Denver, but to be able to go to Los Angeles and San Diego and Arizona and find out what was happening in the other regions, as well, or the other states in our region, but getting asked questions, I would learn just based on some of the questions that would come my way, because I didn't have the answers to everything. And so that forced me to get more involved with Dana and to get more involved with Smith Buckland, our management company, to teach me more and to help be more support to the chapters. But it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I
Awesome.
have amazing friends. I feel confident that I can go into any city in the US, not just the Western region, but in the US, and I could make one phone call and have a group of people meet me for dinner. So I actually miss it. It
Me
was
too.
it was best experience ever.
It's very cool. My kind of follow-up question, and I've noticed this goes kind of both the local chapter level, but also I'm sure escalates as you get into time commitment. You talked about having a great employer who gave you the freedom to be able to do this. Can you guys provide any sort of feedback and tactical advice for someone who maybe their employer doesn't quite see, oh my gosh, yes, devote half your time to ILEA, or maybe they're just like, look, no, you can stay at a regional level or just be a member? What are your feedback, I guess, mainly as you're scaling up and going towards the international level?
I think it really depends on what exactly you do for work and who your boss or bosses are, how you would spin it. But I think a big part of it is the professional development, the knowledge that you'll bring back and be a better team member, and a better leader in your company. And what you'll learn here is going to make you a better employee. So they're investing in you as an employee by giving you the go ahead to attend. And there are some resources that our marketing team has developed too that can help you explain to your employer too, which are available to download. Like, why should I send my employee to ILEA Live? There's, some information that and language that can help as well.
I think too that, I mean, it really helps you as an individual kind of develop some of those time management skills, because obviously, I mean, your employer it has to takes a priority on some times. You need to get your job done, and so finding out the ability to grow your capacity but also balance that and make sure that you're still giving 100% of your time to both places, it's really a skill building thing there. And you learn, what are your slow times of the year that you can maybe take on a little more with this, or that you can adjust on that program, and how do those two things balance out together. I think that's I think that was, a lot. But at the same time, wanting to make sure that I was always there completely for my employer, and if that required a late night doing some ILEA homework, like, that's what it required sometimes. So balancing there.
That's awesome. I think that's a really important thing to note too, is that it teaches you how to balance, create that time, figure out that time. Because I think far too often, I think this is just probably a general working thing, is that sometimes we think, oh, I don't have the time, but the time is sucked up in TV and social media, things like that. You can find the time to be able to do it. And I think when you put the dedication into it, I mean, I remember when I told Tara, I said, I don't know if I can be president. I don't know if I have the time. I got to focus on the company. And she's like, just, you'll figure it out. And you do figure it out. You figure out ways, and it makes you a better leader because it teaches you to delegate. It teaches you to do things faster, find new solutions, all that sort of stuff.
Someone once said to me, and I thought this was great, if you want to get something done, ask the busiest person you know.
That's good. I mean, that's the quote. That's the show, guys. There you go, right there. Okay, so I want to come back to ILEA Live and a little bit about what's going to be going on, if that's okay, and talk a little bit about what do people have to kind of look forward to, because I think that I'm looking around the room, there's just so much happening right now. Like right now, we're technically live from the Facebook Live area where you guys will be broadcasting, I'm guessing, interviews with speakers and other awesome people, EventIcons, for example. So really, really cool. Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what sort of education you guys were talking about that people have to look forward to?
So I think the goal of education for ILEA Live is really focusing on the business of the creative live event industry, and how that kind of differs from any other business. This year, in my role in the education for the conference, I was really focused on our keynote speakers and our featured speakers. And so that was, I geek out about that stuff. I love it. So I mean, it's just, finding unique, different ways of, how is somebody else in an industry completely not necessarily related to ours doing something that could affect us. And in one of my research moments for this, I was looking through, what are businesses that are in Denver that could be applicable or interest. And actually, our Thursday opening speaker is Brent Mather from Gensler, the architecture firm. They have an office here in downtown Denver. And I was, just reading through some articles about Gensler and some of their projects they were working at, and got sucked into this article about the project at DIA and the whole transit center that they were behind and creating with the Westin Hotel,
What's
Denver,
DIA?
Denver International Airport.
Okay.
And like, so that whole project, it could easily be like, yeah, we put a hotel at an airport, whoop-de-doo. No, their focus and their like behind the scenes part of it is creating an atmosphere that's appropriate for the attendees. It's like, so, that really applies to what we do in our industry. And it's that different viewpoint of it. Also, in meeting with him and talking with him, I mean, just Gensler's doing some phenomenal work, forecasting the future of societies and cities and everything, and learning about that and thinking, well, how do we take those elements that they're talking about, the conversion of space, in public spaces and the growth of public spaces, the conversion of, building spaces as companies and employees grow and different transportation methods evolve, like thinking really long term on that and starting to get our attendees to think, well, how does that affect our industry? What can I take from these people that are projecting these futures in society, and how do we apply it to what we're doing? So that was really super exciting to me. Friday, our keynote is William Epsley from Chipotle, who basically started the marketing and branding. Like, he was a one-man show 20 years ago and kind of grew that whole thing. So I think he's really got a lot of interesting to say on like building that heart in your consumer, those people that love your brand and why they love it. And I think that should be really interesting. And then Saturday we have a featured speaker, Rodrigo Espinoza from GPJ, George P. Johnson, amazing worldwide global agency, but he's their vice president of Latin America. And so, I mean, he has a very different perspective on, what the agency is doing. And again, kind of creating those experiential spaces within brands that are changing. And I think a lot of that really, I mean, yeah, it's not exactly what we're doing every day in a lot of our jobs in the industry, but it's all very applicable, and it gets you to think about it differently. And I hope that's what people get out of it, is challenging them to think about differently what their work is and how they can apply some of those things to it.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So definitely some awesome speakers to look forward to, for sure. Tara, I want to kind of talk to you. Obviously, you're living here in Denver, so this is like your hometown. And can you talk a little bit about the planning process with you and your chapter as well, because your chapter was a huge part of this, to bring the local feel of Denver to the conference?
Absolutely. When we found out ILEA Live was coming to Denver, without hesitation.
When was that? When did you guys find out?
It was, yeah, we're usually about 2 years out. I didn't even have to reach out to anyone locally. Our chapter was so thrilled and so excited. I found out about a year ago that I was going to be the chair of the conference, and everyone has stepped up to the plate. So I have been so blessed to have the most amazing committee here locally. And one of the focus that we wanted to have is everyone has this in their, has this thought in their head that Denver's a cow town.
Just like Arizona still has cowboys, apparently. Yeah. Like, what's with?
It's not a cow town. So I have to give a shout out to Danny Finley, who is the chair of the opening reception. And when collaborating and when trying to decide how we wanted to kind of kick off the event, they came up with the name Cosmopolitan Colorado. And so they're going to highlight some of the cool aspects that we think are happening here in Denver. So Rhino, which is the River North Art District, it's new. It's still booming. It has grown so much over the past couple of years, but they're still adding so much to it. So great food scene, bar scene. People are moving in. They're building high-rise apartments. But the ski town, so the mountains. I'm a pretty big fan of the mountains in the summertime, but we're going to showcase the ski towns in the Rocky Mountains and Red Rocks. I think everybody knows Red Rocks. It's one of the iconic music venues. So you'll see different pockets of these cool neighborhoods throughout the opening reception. And then we have a little surprise towards the end. Can't tell what that is.
Ooh, a tease.
Yeah, and then the gala, we're doing that at Wings Over the Rockies.
What's the gala exactly? Because I completely glossed over this massive gala that you guys do. So
It's the Esprit Gala, so it's where all of the nominees that have submitted for awards for different categories, best catering, best photography, they're all coming together, and that's where we announce the winners. So that's happening on Friday night. That's at Wings Over the Rockies, and
more surprises.
more surprises for sure. So it's been so fun, knowing that everything is coming here and collaborating with everyone in Denver, because the excitement in Denver, and I have to say, like, the entire year that we have been planning, there has not been a moment where you didn't go into a meeting with the committee members and the level of excitement was at a 10. It stayed consistent throughout the whole planning process. Everyone's been so excited, and it's almost overwhelming because there's so much that you want to showcase of Denver, and you only have like a little short period of time. So, trying to decide, like, what is it that we want people to experience when they come to Denver. It's been fun just to get everyone's ideas. So kudos to the Denver committee, to the Denver chapter. We've had a ton of local sponsors that have stepped up to the plate and have really, really gone above and beyond. So
very cool. So what would be, because I think we all think about it one day, like we see these conferences traveling around to different cities, and I think a lot of people don't think about the fact that it's planned locally. Maybe they do, and they're like, hey, I want to bring ILEA Live or my local association's event to my city. What would be your one tip for someone who is in the events industry trying to plan an event for the events industry locally?
Well, attend the year prior
That
would be a helpful hint, but I think getting involved a year ahead of time. That's your opportunity to get involved in this year's conference, to kind of showcase and to get people excited about what's going to happen in your city the next year.
Cool. And rely on your teammates too. Don't think you can do it all, right?
Oh my word. Absolutely. I don't even feel confident taking the ILEA conference chair title because Shannon Kavanaugh with Smith Buckland, I think she deserves that. She has been phenomenal. The committee member, the chairs of each offsite event. Yeah, absolutely not. There's no way one person could do it alone.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to say something really interesting that you guys are going to find very funny, but we're coming to the end of the show.
Oh my gosh, you did say it was going to go by really fast. It flew by.
For the record, I don't think I've ever said this on air, but I always tell you guys to say the hour is going to go by so fast. And I'm sure the same way with everyone who's watching right now. You can't believe how fast the hour spins on by. So I want to start winding things down. And I think that you guys are a wealth of wisdom. Obviously, you guys have gotten to work with a lot of event professionals across the country. You guys are literally leading on this gigantic organization. How many members does ILEA have now? Do you guys know?
About 4,000 members annually.
So many people. And it continues to grow. If I remember in one of our last meetings, it just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what I want to kind of jump into tips for people that are out there that plan their own events. What do you guys recommend for them, whether it's related to ILEA or not? What would you guys kind of like one tip be for planners out there? It could be anything.
Network.
What do you mean? Like, so everyone kind of thinks the network. So what would be your kind of networking tips?
Well, when I got involved and I moved to Denver, I had never networked a day in my life. I had no idea what I was doing. And through networking, not only I've never been affiliated with ILEA to get business, so that was not my motivating factor to become a member of ILEA. It was to build my network of event professionals that was going to help me become a better event professional. But when you network and you meet your people, we've kind of talked about it throughout this entire interview, you have people to go to. So when you're trying to sell a space that doesn't exist anymore, you don't have to be the expert at it. So that's the beauty of ILEA, is you don't have to be the expert at what you're doing. You just have to know who the expert is, and you just have to have them in your networking Rolodex, if you will.
Amazing. I'm going to put you on the spot for a bonus tip. I completely forgot to ask about this because you obviously mentioned really quickly about how that you weren't in the events industry. You're not traditionally an event planner or an event professional, but you're still part of this organization. So I think people might be feeling the same thing. They feel like they're just on the fringe outside of maybe the events industry. They aren't necessarily like a supplier like me or an event planner. What's your tip for people who aren't necessarily in the events industry to make the most of being in an events industry association?
The education. So I don't necessarily plan events. I am working with people who plan events, and a lot of the facility, not a lot, but about 36 of the facilities that my company is in, we do events. So having the knowledge of what's going on allows me to be a resource to those people that I work with, to people that I network with. So I do have my hands somewhat in it, but it's always just being at the forefront of what's happening in the industry and being able to be a guidance. I mean, that's what our goal is we want to be the movement of the event industry. So I stay involved so that I know what's happening globally, so that when I'm out networking with other people, I can help them and I can kind of guide them in the direction that we want to see the event industry go.
That's awesome. I think that comes from such like a helping manner too. I think we're in this day and age where you have to help a ton, and people, that's how you just give value and kind of returns ends. And Dana, what about you? What would be your one tip for planners related to anything ILEA or whatever you want to talk about?
Well, I think it's just so important, and this really speaks to what you were talking about. Build the best possible team that you can and really develop those relationships. And you can pre-plan everything that you can possibly think of, depending on if you have a short lead time or a long lead time. But when you get in it, it's all about solutions. And when you have that team, I tell everybody, because the rest of my crew that I work with aren't event planners or producers. And I'm like, when we get to the week of, it's all about solutions. We're smiling all the way through. We're going to figure this out. So there's always a solution. And having that network of folks, if the solution is something that's tricky, you know them, you can call them any time of the day or night, and they're going to come through and help you. You know,
I think that was so cool how you said like the just always be like, always be about solutions, always be smiling, like, and it's going to work out. And I think it's when you're talking to like people who are just getting in the industry, that's like so common. They're like, well, what if this happens? I'm like, we'll tackle it then, right? Like it all works in the end. If not, it's not the end, right? So I love it. Having a great team is really important, obviously. All right, Jen, your one tip.
I would kind of tack on to Dana a little bit there, and to throw another speaker plug out there, but
do it,
because that's what I'm doing this year.
I mean, that's important, because I mean, these people, even if they can't make it, they can look it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a reason to come next year if you're not coming this year. Minneapolis, St. Paul. We have a CSCP masterclass this year. So a benefit,
CSCP
certified special event professional designation.
Kind of like the alphabet soup you get to put there.
Absolutely. And you get a snazzy pin. But no, you get kind of in this really cool group of people around the world. And so one of the benefits that we're offering this year at ILEA Live is a special masterclass session just for those CSCPs. They're getting special content that nobody else at the conference is getting. And Fritha Knudsen is coming and speaking, and her topic is really kind of about having that great partnership with you on your production team. And so she's bringing her technical director that she works with on a lot of her productions. She oversees a lot of the Virgin Galactic events around the world, and the big, huge parties that happen at Dreamforce up in San Francisco in conjunction with the Salesforce conference.
Jealous. It sounds so cool. Can I go to this?
I
can't go to it. I'm not.
You can. You can get your CSCP, and then you can go.
I have 24 hours. Let's go.
Let's do it. We can make this happen. But like, I think, that topic of hers of, your production team and your team behind you is really gold, and having those relationships that you build through things like ILEA, that you have that trust between you and your partners on your event. I mean, that's really key, because they're going to be there supporting you. When something does go wrong, something happens, you've got a really strong team of people that you can trust behind you. And I think that mutual respect too that happens with those event partners, that like, it's not just somebody that's coming and delivering something for you and you kind of just write them off. I mean, you treat those people with gold. And I think that's, something that I always carried over from my old theater days is like, you take care of your tech crew, and, mean,
Here's your 20.
thank you. The rest is in the mail, right? No,
Yes,
I mean, take care
net
of your
90.
tech crew. I mean, you take care of not just your tech crew, but I mean, I work in nonprofit. Our event is, we have 2 staff people, and then I have about 100 volunteers that come in over a week to produce our gala. And it's like those people are there giving you their time for free, and you need to thank them for that. You need to treat them well. You need to feed them. And I mean, not just the whatever cheapest thing, like treat them well, treat them like they are in your home, and that
They're
they're
your
family.
family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Preach. Preach. No, yeah, amazing. Me and Brant talk about it. One of our co-hosts talk about that all the time. Like, it just goes the smallest way. I think people also don't realize that too. Like a thank you with a meal, or buying someone a beer or a Red Bull or whatever they need. Like, that just goes so far. All right, we got a couple minutes left. So I want to jump into resources, because I know you guys got some favorite resources, books, blogs, favorite Navy TV show that you're loving now. Anything really, it can be at all. You can say that you love this purple microphone. I'm not allowed to talk about the scuba mask anymore, and I just said it. But someone once brought a scuba mask on the show. So dang it, I'm losing the host bet. We have a bet between all the hosts if Will mention the scuba mask, and I'm really trying to get away from it. But your favorite thing could be this microphone. I swear I'm eventually gonna get away from it. So what are your favorite resources? Anything at all? And any one of you guys?
I mean, just like, this might sound weird. I mean, I'm a Southern California girl. I grew up going to Disneyland. Like, that is my favorite place. Like, going to Disneyland or going to the theater and seeing live theater is like the greatest creative, refreshing resource thing for me when I'm doing event stuff, because you get stuck in a rut, and then you're someplace and you pay attention to the small details of something, and just like that can inspire you to find a solution or think about something differently, or take a design element out of, a piece of hardware on a door or something like that. And I think all those little things I just find inspiring, in seeing new spaces, or even like old spaces, and appreciating kind of the craftsmanship that goes into those, and the thought and the creativity behind that.
I love it. I love it. Actually, I'm going to look back at our schedule for the rest of the year, because I want to name drop this next episode, because I'm so excited for it. But you talked about using theater. Where is it? It's in here. It's coming up later this year. Oh, did we move it? I don't remember. Oh, here it is. So in episode 141 in November, way later from now, we're doing an episode on making your events more theatrical. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. And I'm really excited for that episode, because we can pull a lot from theater. Obviously, the ideas of doing things in the round, and all these terms come from theater. So I think it'll be really, really
Well,
cool.
but even too, just the whole experience in itself is that you're walking into a space and you have that, rising action until the moment that, something big is happening, and then how you wrap that all down. Like, every theatrical play or experience has that same action and to it.
We're just gonna have to bring you back for this episode.
Totally.
I love it. All right, Tara, what about you? Favorite resources? I know you have some awesome stuff.
So me personally, Mingle magazine, I know is really odd, but I love the event industry, but I also love personally hosting. So if I can have a party every weekend, if my husband would allow it, I absolutely would. So Mingle, I find a lot, and it also helps in business. But for all the sellers that I support in my job, one thing that I tell them to do is follow the winners in the industry. So find out who wins the best caterer at the Esprit Awards and Cater Source, and what are they doing? Follow their Pinterest page, follow their blogs, and find out what the leaders in our industry are doing, and how do we become one of those. My company is very unique, so we don't advertise ourselves as a catering company, so we're a little different, but I think that's the best resource out there. You've got the people who are winning these awards and who are, setting trends for our industry, so follow them.
Awesome. I think it's such an easy tip to apply. All right, Dana, favorite resources.
So this is kind of a different spin on what you were saying, but the thing that really intrigues me is not what you see front facing, but all that stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So whether it's like getting to go into going into this giant warehouse full of linens and seeing all these colors and piles of things and getting inspired, like, oh my gosh, I could do this. Or one of my dreams is I want to sometime be on radio when they call the show for the Super Bowl halftime, because that's like, everything that a lot of us are doing on crack, all sped up, like I can't even imagine. It would totally freak me out. But anyway, I think getting that opportunity to be behind the scenes somewhere so you can better understand what it takes for that person, that team, to do what you need them to do, so that you can understand and kind of get a glimpse. So I think that's a really great resource. And I'll do a final shameless plug for, or not so shameless, for ILEA, but I think International Live Events Association. So yes, we have a lot of planners and producers, but we're really about all of the fingers of the events industry, all of these creative events professionals globally. So it's all aspects of the industry, and that's such a great resource.
Tie in on that too is that we have this resource called Experience, which kind of gives you a lot of those behind the scenes aspects. They're interviewing a lot of our members and current CSCPs about some of the amazing events that they're producing, and you kind of get that really, behind the curtain look at some of these things. So that's a unique opportunity to take advantage with that too.
I love it. Cool. Oh my gosh, guys, it's been an hour, so it means that we have to wrap up, but I do want to thank you guys so much. Stick around for just a second, but thank you guys so much, Jen, Tara, Dana, so much for being on the show. It was so insightful to hear your guys' experience with the show, everything you guys have gone through from rising up the ranks, as I'm calling it over and over again, of ILEA. You guys, thank you so much for all of your volunteering and all of your awesome work, and thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. For all of our live audience, don't leave quite yet. Want to give some shout outs to everyone who has watched. We have some exciting news next week. If you love this live version of the show, which 100% attendance from the beginning of the episode to the end, which is very fantastic. You guys' retention rate is fantastic. I like to think that it's my shining attitude, but not so much. But if you
It's Dana's boots.
it's true. By the way, you guys want to show off your shoes real quick? They really wanted to show off their shoes, which is awesome. So we will be doing this again next week from Connect Marketplace in Salt Lake City. And what's going to be cool about that episode is all of the hosts of this show will be together in one place. It'll be the first time ever in history. Live. Plus all the people that are speaking at that show. So it's going to be crazy. She asked if the scuba mask will be there. I think it will have to make an appearance. I'm going to go buy one right now. So for everyone who's tuned in, make sure you tune in next week. And again, if you're watching us live right now, you can also catch us in recording on Pocket Cast, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify. We're on Facebook Live as well. We're literally all over the places that you need to be. If you are listening to the recording of this, the live show is by far the best. This is the most exciting part, to interact with the guests and get to join us and make funny emojis inside the chat. So make sure to join us live as well, 5 p.m. Eastern, every single Wednesday, except for next week, which will be on Thursday, because that's when the conference is. Fun times. So we're out of here. We'll see you guys all later from Denver, Colorado. Everyone have a fantastic day.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.